together. We've got to get our defense ready for the trial. Oh, it's probably gonna be a long and difficult case. There's no point in worrying about that. Here, whoever the murderer was, he wouldn't be caught with the and that there was no third person. And Paimon didn't eat more than 3 macarons either. Take it? That size wouldn't have... Don't just look into the truth one another.
Relax. Even if everyone else suspects Lenny and Lynette, at least we will be supporting them from the stands. Besides, I doubt understands any more about what happened than we.
Thanks, Nadia. Well, we'll be going.
Best of luck.
Finally, you're back. Well, how did your investigation go?
You might be disappointed.
No, you all pointed. Tell me your nation came up empty-handed. That was to be expected, of course. The guilty can never produce proof of innocence. But don't let that stop you. I shall be really disappointed should you, my most anticipated foe, concede.
Since both parties are present, I declare that the trial now in session. For the audience to understand of the incident, could we please have Mr. Linney explain the trick?
Yes, of course. Explain while Lynette demonstrates on stage. Scary items have been...
In case I take your statement, you do and remain in the audience stands once the trick begins, and thus would not have committed the crime. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
In that case, I call upon the prosecution arena to refute his statement anyway.
My need to take the first shot and break the case wide open. There is no time if you were to abduct Hall. In fact, you were hardly in that at all.
That is simply your hypothesis. I'm sure that
Oh, just did you hear
how I kept time anticipation for the finale.
You didn't hear anything else at all? Be any kind?
No.
But when the count seconds or so, there was a thud. How that I believe.
Huh?
Hey, come on!
Yeah, I just have heard that loud from inside the box.
was right by the box. I definitely heard the thud.
Well then, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to the words of the magician himself. You know what can happen in the blink of an eye. Indeed, alibi can also collapse in the blink of an eye. Of course, I have myself to do far more to smash your alibi. Confidence and foundation solid. Tell the next action of the hearth.
No wonder they did something like this.
Appearances were the Fatsui's doing. Not like so.
I got a feeling stage probably wasn't an act.
That's irrelevant to do with what happened.
Perhaps was everything that happened 1 minute. Your first priority is to prove yourself innocent after all. Sure, there is little that needs to be kept secret. Your script in it. Oh my, don't they look flabbergasted? Now comes the infighting and discord, I suppose. This was almost you. Oh, good thing I made all those preparations. The all-nighter I pulled last night is really paying.
Order! Order! Mr. Linney, allow me to reestablish the facts. Lady Farina has raised 2 points. First, when the thud was heard in the Opera House, you were neither in the box nor the tunnel. Second, you and Ms. Lynette are both members of the House of the Hearth. Are these claims true? Please answer my question, Mr. Linney.
I'm sorry. Yes, they're true, Your Honor.
I knew it!
Well, that's it. We might as well move on to the sentencing already.
What should we do now?
Granted. In that case, what is your request?
Is that really necessary? They're already as good as guilty.
The defendant deceived their own attorneys. What is there left to discuss?
Order! Order, I say! Your request is reasonable, and we shall adjourn. This trial will reconvene in 1 hour.
So you would stick to Mr. Linney's defense even after knowing what you do now? You certainly have more professionalism than I thought. In that case, my dear audience, let's allow the joy of victory to steep for a little while longer.
Well, this is awkward. I didn't think the Hydro Archon would dig all that up. I'm sorry, Traveler and Paimon.
Yeah, sorry. Paimon doesn't know where to start. We trusted you two. We based our entire reasoning on the assumption that you weren't bad guys. Not to set the wrong tone or anything, but Paimon's really mad!
I'm very sorry. I know you're angry, and reasonably so, but please, let me explain. I know you've clashed with the Fatui several times before. I wouldn't be surprised if just hearing the word is enough to make you upset. But our organization is very, very large, and the Harbingers have very different personalities and goals.
Right now, we want to save people. As many as we can.
That's right. I'm sure we're on the same page when it comes to this nation and the disaster that its people might face. I knew if it weren't for our respective identities, we could become good friends. That's why I didn't wish to flat out lie to you, but chose to hide some details instead. The truth is very important, but being completely transparent about everything would see us spending more effort than we need to. Right. So, you be the judge. Heck, if I were you, I fear that I'd even struggle to trust me at this point. You met a Fatus who works as a magician, a trickster by trade. All by coincidence, too. But still, I'm asking you to trust me. I am no criminal. At least, not in this case.
Sorry. Please forgive us.
Well, you both say that, but... Right. Let's hear your answer first, and no lies now!
Of course. I'll answer any question you ask. We've been trying to find out how the Oratrice operates. We want to know why it has a consciousness. Why can it deliver sentences accurately? During our investigations, we learned that the machine's core is beneath it. From that moment on, Lynette and I have been designing this box swap trick with the objective of getting close to the core.
Is that why you needed a whole minute?
That's right. In truth, the audience would take about 75 seconds to count down from 60, while I would only need 15 to get to the opposite box. So, after jumping into the tunnel, I accessed the Opera House basement via the vent, and went to investigate the room in which the core is stored.
That air vent was created during the construction of the tunnel specifically to execute this step.
Well, nothing. As soon as I reached that room and was about to investigate, I heard someone's voice. Which should have been impossible, of course. I was quite certain that I was the only one in the room. That voice seemed to recognize me and tried to speak to me. I chose to err on the side of caution and retreated the way I came. On the way back, I saw the broken vase and the clothes on the ground, but the countdown was almost finished, so there wasn't time to give it any thought. After that, the homicide occurred just as you saw.
Well, that explains why you didn't hear the thud.
Because of that prophecy I told you about, of course. We must know all we can about this nation's secrets in order to deal with that prophesized crisis.
That's the only way we can save everyone.
So, there you have it. The whole truth. I swear, I didn't hide anything from you this time. It was never my wish to proceed out of mistrust either. But like I said earlier, you can be the judge. If you want to leave because you don't trust the Fatui, there's nothing I can do to stop you.
Well, Traveler, you decide. Paimon will follow your lead.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for giving us a chance.
The problem is, those are tipped with you two. If we were the Hydro Archon's accusations, we're gonna need a seriously watertight defense. Huh? Oh, that's what you mean.
Both parties have returned to their positions. Let us continue the trial. When last we left off, Mr. Linney acknowledged the new evidence presented by Lady Farina as fact. Therefore, Lady Farina may continue stating her reconstruction of the events.
Now then, their attention. At this stage, let's revisit that scene from Linney's perspective. As the countdown began, he entered the tunnel. When the flatbed trolley passed, he opened the box and got into an altercation with Halsey, which caused the loud thud. He did not realize that this sound could be heard by everyone in the opera house, which is why he claimed earlier that he could not hear the sound. Finally, he used the vase to knock her out, before making her change clothes to prevent others from recognizing her. At this time, Cowell arrived in the tunnel, having heard that strange noise, and caught Linney red-handed. So Linney proceeded to knock him out too before stuffing him into that box. Afterward, Linney passed the unconscious Halsey to his accomplice through the magic box in the audience stands, before operating the devices such that Cowell's death would be ruled an accident. And there you have it. That's the truth behind what happened.
Does the defendant's side have any objections to Lady Farina's description of the events?
The key to refuting Lady Farina is the order of events, what Linney experienced, and what he saw. According to Linney, he left via the vent after entering the tunnel. He couldn't have had that altercation with Halsey. Seems this won't produce a particularly effective rebuttal. Se- Se- Seems this... Linney did not take part in the underground altercation. He only witnessed traces of the aftermath. Seem... Hmm. 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 Linny went to the room that contains the Oratrice's core. This is the actual truth.
Attention! Ace Detective Paimon has something to say! When the countdown started, Linny did indeed go into the tunnel. But he immediately used a vent to access the Opera House basement, which is where the underground core of the Oratrice is stored. Once he reached that area, he heard a voice in what should have been an empty room. Since he felt something was amiss, he returned immediately. The crime scene had already developed by the time he reached the tunnel again, and in order to complete the magic trick, he did not remain there for any length of time. Finally, he reached the surface, and that was when the accident happened from his point of view. Therefore, he's innocent! Paimon did it! Paimon actually managed to say all that! Wasn't it awesome?
In other words, you believe that he knew nothing of the incident?
That's right!
My reasoning?
If that's the case, then if Cowell hadn't entered the tunnel, who was the entire setup meant to kill? Assuming that what you say is true, Linny only needed to kidnap the young girl to cause a new disappearance case. What would the point of killing someone on stage be?
Oh, they have a point.
That's right, you tell him! And that's why they're partners of mine. They've managed to turn things around. Oh, well, your denial is very strident, I'll give you that. But what proof do you have to back your claims? Of course I do. If he had been in the magic box the whole time, how could he have not heard that sound? Why do you ask? You're saying that he wasn't?
Are you sure we don't need to give this more thought? Paimon thinks there's something off here. Are you sure we don't need to give this more thought? That's right! Linny wasn't in the box or in the tunnel. That's why he didn't hear anything strange during the performance. This means that when the crime happened, Linny had already entered the basement via the vent. The same clue you used to disprove his alibi has now become the best proof! How do you like that?
Well played. To think you'd use such logic. Well then, if it wasn't Linny who committed the crimes, then who was it?
Could there have been a third person involved? Is that really a possibility? Halsey is the missing person and an ordinary audience member. Or did she have her own scheme all along? The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment.
Huh? That can't be right. Are you serious? The killer was, in fact, Cowell, the deceased!
Oh, is that so? How interesting! Let's hear your reasoning then.
What I must do next is recreate the truth. What Cowell did, and how he went from would-be perpetrator to victim. No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances. So where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey? It would have been tough for both people to fit into the sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there must have been some fear that she would attract attention. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment. The sound we heard may have come from a clash, but the deceased's name is Cowell. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances.
Traveler? You still having trouble figuring things out?
I see how it is. So this was all just a bluff. And here I thought you had something to show for it. But it seems you're still far from the truth.
Look, since we're at a dead end, why not consider a different track? Just like the trick as it transpired, the end result must have been utterly different from the magician's initial design.
If only we knew how Halsey disappeared.
Well, that would be nice, but the tunnel only has bits. Doesn't seem very likely. And it's not like this is a magic trick where you can just make a real live person disappear. You know, like you did from that water tank, Lynette.
Excuse my interruption, dear opponents, but do you not see that the crowd is growing impatient? There is no greater sin in this opera house than an awkward delay in the performance.
If the defense is unable to make further effective arguments, we will move on to the next stage of the trial.
Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. The vase was not broken by chance. It was used to cover important evidence. The water.
Paimon gets it! It all comes together if Halsey disappeared instead of being kidnapped. Lynette escaped from the water tank, vanishing gradually and leaving only clothes behind. If there's a similar method where a person could be transformed into water...
Oh, just a moment, please. I do hope you know how preposterous you sound at the moment. How could a person ever be transformed into water? This is reality we're talking about here, not some magic trick. Must we really? I should think that of anyone. Your friend Linny already knows this truth very well. Magic tricks are ultimately just illusions and misdirection. But Halsey's disappearance is very real. We're talking about two completely different things.
Even so, I trust the Traveler's judgment. The truth must be out there somewhere. Perhaps some new line of reasoning may open if we try to gather all the focal points that don't make sense. Since Cal was the deceased, we haven't placed much attention on him. But given that we aren't making much progress with the case, it wouldn't hurt to have a look at his belongings, would it?
People really do come up with all sorts of harebrained schemes when at the end of their rope. The way I see it, your suggestion that we broaden the scope of our investigation is nothing but a tactic for stalling the trial.
Nevertheless, I believe that this is a reasonable request on the part of an attorney. Since the trial does indeed appear to be at an impasse, I believe that additional evidence may help us make more progress. Guards, please step into the lounge and examine the personal effects of the deceased, Cowell.
We are still examining the items, but we have already made critical progress that we feel must be shared with everyone post-haste. We discovered several test tubes of fluid within Cowell's baggage, each labeled separately. The notebook in his backpack claims that these fluids are water from the Primordial Sea.
The Primordial Sea?
The note's contents also indicate that Cowell belonged to an organization that sells illegal drugs and that he had an accomplice. The notebook has many entries concerning safe usage of these fluids, in which the keyword dissolve appears many times. One of these tubes was labeled Opera Epiclese, along with yesterday's date. It is empty. The notes also state that these dissolution properties work exclusively on people from Fontaine. It's likely that Halsey was chosen as some sort of test subject. As such, we believe that the defense's hypothesis is, in fact, supported by sufficient evidence.
You've gotta be kidding! People dissolving into water?
Could something so ridiculous actually be true?
Wait a moment. This reminds me of a certain prophecy, but it's just a coincidence, isn't it?
Huh. If people can become water, does that mean that the water tank's real use was as a means to hide water stains? And if Cowell was targeting that girl... Wait just a minute. Could that mean... You two, with me, quick!
Demoiselle, wait! What about your partners?
Let's go. Just trust me.
Order! Order!
It is undeniable that further examination of the deceased's personal effects has yielded some surprising results, but we cannot yet verify the veracity of these clues. Still, let us assume that these clues are indeed authentic, albeit with the understanding that Ms. Halsey has yet to be found. Guards, please continue examining the items along these lines. Mr. Linney, it appears your hypothesis is supported by the evidence, so please continue speaking.
Of course. Thank you, Your Honor. If we uphold this hypothesis, I believe that many of this case's seemingly unrelated clues can be connected together.
Right! Like the metal hook! That one didn't make sense at all. Let's think about this. Cowell's methods must have something to do with that water from the primordial sea.
The deceased's name is Cowell, Linney's assistant. Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. Did she have something to do with this? I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box. Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant for another magic trick, but was instead some form of triggering mechanism. The water from the primordial sea should already have been prepped before Halsey entered the magic box. The rope that held the water tank up was lit by the fireworks and snapped. As such, the focus here is on the water and not the tank. I remember there was something...
It's Ace Detective Paimon's time to shine again! In the original plan, Cowell would tamper with the water tank rope and the number selector securing his target. When the magic box containing Halsey was lowered, the metal hook would retract gradually and pierce the balloon at the top of the box. When the balloon attached to the box popped, the water from the primordial seed inside it would pour down and dissolve Halsey. Afterward, Cowell would enter the tunnel and break the flower vase to conceal the water inside the tunnel, with the remaining evidence being covered up by the water tank on stage. But he encountered something unexpected in the tunnel, and wound up being fatally hit by the same water tank he meant to use to cover his tracks.
Huh. That does make sense.
That actually links together a lot of the more confusing pieces of evidence.
dear, what do I do? Even I think they sound convincing now. Have I falsely accused an innocent person? What a humiliation.
Now, it seems like the only point of contention remaining is the exact circumstances that led to Cal's death. His notes mentioned he had an accomplice who could be related to the situation.
On that note, the guards have just contacted me indicating that they uncovered new evidence. I shall now invite him on stage to share it with us.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were just inspecting the luggage of the other people involved in this case. And we found an identical sample of the water from the Primordial Sea among Linny's personal effects.
What?
That can't be. Oh, I see. Well, how wonderfully comedic to have your own counterattack only to come back and wound you. Does this not clear all doubt? My dear citizens, my loyal audience, allow me to present my reasoning and bring this performance swift close. The part solution he did leave the scene via the event. He made modifications to the before couch using the water from the Primordial Sea, but upon his return, avarice, Linny desired and prepared out, and then covered the murder weapon. Now, as much as I have come to such a viciously straightforward conclusion, it does seem that the famed the cold-blooded and ruthless organization. Am I right, Mr. Linny?
There's no way for us to make it to the end of the road.
I can't think of anything. It doesn't look like there's any risk. Seems using the water as this was too good a move. What now?
We've seen enough now, and we have ample witnesses to my flawless reasoning. I believe this is the finale. Now then, my good, noble Chief Justice, should we not, in your view, move...
Excuse me, everyone, but I must interject.
Miss, I must ask you not to shout, and to respect the ongoing legal proceedings.
Oh, come on. Don't be hasty. I have a good reason for interrupting, you know. Now, would anyone here like to take a little break from all this debate and see a little magic? I'll show you an amazing trick. One that can bring a young woman who has disappeared back in the flesh, right before your very eyes. Please, do the honors, Mr. Linny, if you would be so kind.
What in the world is she saying?
No offense, miss, but miracles like that are beyond my scope as a magician.
Don't be silly. Present a fleeting illusion. Magic to them. The has made the necessary arrangements on but as magic maker and stars of the show. I think I should leave the final performance to you.
I understand.
Allah.
Sorry for the interruption.
Is it Halsey? So the whole thing about people to do after all?
To be clear, I'm only merit of doing so with less sentence. This room listening to proceedings because I was afraid that I would be the one on trial. I was just feeling happy that no one had noticed me, and then before I knew it, she caught me.
That'll teach you to underestimate us three.
Did I begin? I'm sorry. I'm the one who killed Cowl. I admit it.
What? Why?
Firstly, my name isn't Halsey. It's Lillian, and I'm originally from Mondstadt. I heard that Linny's show was gonna be a real thriller, but I missed the chance to buy a ticket, so I stole one. That's how I make a living. I steal stuff here and there, and I'd never been caught before. But I was noticed at the harbor a few days ago, and I barely got away. Linny back.
The thief! Liddy even mentioned that you were pretty skilled.
Well, and I thought that would have been the end of it, but then the number selector chose me. He even mentioned the Fortress of Meripede. That's a prison, isn't it? So you can imagine how shocked I was. I thought he was onto me for sure. So I played along with the show while looking for an opening to flee, but then I got water poured on me for no reason, and then someone jumped into the tunnel to nab me. I wasn't going to take that lying down, so I knocked him out and stuffed him into the box. There was nowhere to run from there, though, so I had to change my clothes and hide in a box containing performance costumes. I slipped out after the first guard arrived at the scene and continued hiding inside the opera house.
Can a person even hide in there?
But I swear I didn't know that the water tank would fall down. Really, I swear it. Had I known that, I wouldn't have put him in the magic box. I may be a thief, but I'm no killer.
Well, that makes everything pretty clear now, doesn't it?
This time, we need to tell the entire story from Lily-Ann's perspective. Seems this won't produce a particularly... Seems this... The flower vase was not broken to cover anything, but it was smashed during the struggle between Lily-Ann and Cowell. The strange sound wasn't from a fight. It was Lily-Ann's attempt to break out when she was frightened. Lily-Ann was afraid that she would be recognized if she left, so she changed clothes and hid, biding her time. Just one active and experience.
I'm on time! Having been selected out of the blue, Lily-Ann panicked. Her panic only intensified after she entered the tunnel and had a board on her head. We all heard. To discover that Lily-Ann was not from Fontaine. It was a thief who made her way in by stealing a ticket. Mistakenly believing that the water from the primordial sea needed time to take effect, he tried to force Lily-Ann back into the box. The two broke the flower vase, came out on top, knocked him in the box. She changed and hid in the through garden and if she tried to leave afterward. She's been trapped in the opera house these last 2 days.
She had already become desperately hungry by the time we were chatting over macarons. So, she swiped 2 of them right under our noses. Talk about a sneaky thief.
At this point, all the events that happened in the tunnel have now come to light.
Ah, it's the whole story.
Against and question, Lady Farina. Also, if I may add, the trial has not yet ended. Such that the prosecution not for the
no further human
Inflated balloon now.
If there are no Chief Justice of Fontaine shall once perpetrator see a cow select victim the audience the modifications who will be around the water behind the with end of the four pouring the box to past the moment the trick officially began. The box containing the woman lowered into the tunnel, tightening the hook rope and bursting the balloon. The woman would be dissolved at this time. Was from Fontaine, and thus fled the Bonos. This trouble, Carol entered the tunnel with Liliane, thinking that not yet he decided to proceed. However, his opponent was more capable than he thought, knocked unconscious and placed into the magic box. This became his victim. Liliane to her own spirit, then chain ended before hiding in other parts of the opera house. He was in the underground structures within the opera house and was thus ignorant of these happenings. From this reconstruction of events, we can conclude that Linny, the accused, is innocent. Much in Linny and the cause should still be investigated. It can be handed over to the oratress to make the final decision. Are officially declared not guilty.
Partners. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Next, I think we deserve an explanation, Guard Vaughn. How did you find the water from the primordial sea in—
Right! Yuri caused mistake. Not to see this.
I had this
line, or you would and protect our rights.
so discovered people to which extremely polluted. We've been in this business for more of it. The appearances were also the site. I'm this talking about.
And now he can no longer talk.
Such ruthlessness. I shouldn't have expected any less of them.
An outrageous act. All present, please submit to inspection immediately.
So, we're just going back now? That's true, but...
Traveler, Paimon, please wait.
Linny...
I know you may not want to speak to me right now. Maybe you don't even want to look at me. But still, let me thank you again for defending me to the end, even after you learned that I'm a member of the Fatui. I guess. But regardless, I'd like the opportunity to set things straight. I didn't approach you with any ulterior motives or ill intent. I've spoken to you as myself, just plain Linny this entire time. As for why I'm a Fatus, it's because the goals of the House of the Hearth align with those of an orphan like me. That's all. That was how Father, who you might know as the Knave, approached recruiting us back then too.
A knave? The one who controls the House of the Hearth? She's your father?
That's right. And since we're here, I was wondering, hearing a story? It's about my past. My parents first died, wandering the streets. To survive, I took to surreptitiously observing an older street performer who did magic. It took me several days to figure out how he pulled off his amazing tricks. I took my sister through several streets until we found a crowded corner, and we began to perform magic tricks there. To my surprise, we proved and we could at least stop worrying about where our next meal would come from. I want my sister to remain with me forever. Before long, Crash came to me, and Clint after watching my
stability, just like
I felt it first too. Fate was on our side. We could say goodbye to those painful days. But I gradually discovered that while we were called foster children, he was really after telling the magic tricks. He would come and take all sorts of banquets to garner attention, which then use social circles.
Too bad either. Better than running with it.
It took a while for me to realize just how dark his heart really was. After one particular performance at a banquet, I discovered that his turn vehicle was me. I waited a long time after she did not come back. I went to that noble's bedroom and asked him about her whereabouts. The answer he gave me was, she caught the eye of the most eminent person at the banquet, so I sent. I mean, you'll be able to perform your magic regardless of who your assistant is, yes?
Oh no. So he was gonna... King's laws deal with such people?
As far as outsiders are concerned, kin foster care are ways of escaping the eye of the law. I managed to ferret out the location of the man, that so-called eminent person, through the night. But by the time I leaped over the wall, avoided the guards, and made my way in, all I saw was the moonlit ground covered in blood there in the dark.
So...
That's just myself. Even discovered all... I mean, the knave would have seen me, so she never. The Hearth welcome your interests along with ours. Ever betray you. Betrayal shall never be permitted here. I was hesitant to her. I just been betrayed by nobles. But she was quick to destroy the noble who had taken us in at first, giving us back our freedom.
Oh, so that's how the two of you joined the House of the Hearth.
Own plans. Gain permission from her. She plans to use it to find a way to break the prophecy and save Fontaine.
So, she believes in that prophecy too?
That's right. Though the Hearth is currently working to combat that crisis. Today's case has also proven that people from the water, all house members here, Leo himself included, we won't give up on defending our homeland. Us orphans, the only connection we have left in this world, apart from family, is our homeland.
So, from small deeds like distributing magic pockets to huge schemes like stealing a Gnosis,
Understand. I understand. Even a house, I have making my mind believe what I'm doing is right. If you should need anything, feel free to find me. I will do my best to help you.
Were you?
This whole thing isn't exactly clear, is it? I do feel getting closer to solving the serial case, though. You think so too? Huh? My dear partner?
Besides, sure you're the ones who can crack a case that's been for given that there's no evidence from the trial, there should be a trail of breadcrumbs Hydra wants people to follow now, right?
I see. Well, I won't lie. I'm a little shocked to hear that from you. But I suppose you are only arrived in Fontaine after all. I might have been too presumptuous.
Don't say that, Mommy.
Oh, and we were having so much fun investigating with you, too. It was like having new waters flowing into a stagnant mire, causing new hope to the reflection in the murk to become clearer. Sorry, don't mind. Shall we have our time as partners?
Do we really need to get that formal? Well, guess you really did treat us as partners, huh?
Well, I just like to have a proper ending to every important memory. That way there are no regrets later. Anyway, it would just be a meal, so it shouldn't take too much of your time.
Here at Boss Navia's treating in.
Oh, wonderful. In that case, why don't we return to the Court of Fontaine and head to the Hotel de Boer? I believe we'll make just in time for dinner.
Let's have
Ad Astra. Thank you